G'day guys and welcome. My name is Michael and I am the Deadaussiegamer, here to share with you my tips, tricks, ideas and strategies for playing and running tabletop role-playing games. Today we're back with another player archetype video focusing on not only how to define some of the players that you might see at your games, but also how to get the most out of specific types of players when they arrive. Today we're going to be talking about the Watcher. Now, the Watcher is a very interesting and dramatic title for certain players that, well, may not necessarily come across as dramatic as their namesake. Some of the player traits you can expect to find from a Watcher type of character is someone who enjoys being an observer to the narrative. Rather than having their character interact or engage in a direct fashion, they prefer to sort of sit in the sidelines. They'll do what really is necessary for their character to do mechanically, but they won't necessarily invest with their character, nor will they necessarily roleplay to any major degree. Watcher characters can sometimes also be known as wallflowers, or that person who might be on his phone all the time. You know, there are many ways to view a Watcher type character. But I think they are also, like with many of the archetypes I've discussed, an underutilized feature of any game table. When we think of a Watcher character, we think to ourselves as a GM, how do I get this person engaged? How do I make them roleplay? How do I get them to enjoy the game the same way that we enjoy the game? Well, that's the funny thing. They don't have to. Everyone enjoys this game differently. Some people, they love acting, they love performing. Other people love taking their toolbox out and number crunching things till they make something so broken you want to tear your dice in half. But there are also those people who just enjoy being a part of a good story. People who just enjoy being around their friends, regardless of what they're doing. If you were watching a movie or playing a role-playing game, these people want to be around you just because you're their friends. And that is fine too. There is a way to make the most out of Watcher characters, and I think it lies within understanding their enjoyment and why they're there. Let's go into the next step of this. Character design. Now, Watcher type characters tend to design based on the needs of the group. They are open to suggestion and very easily malleable by many members of the team. If you have a character who goes, "Oh, buddy, listen, I've got this great idea for a character, but I need a friend. I need someone who to play my relative so that I can get this feat, and if I get this feat and we're both relatives, we get this massive bonus. How good is that? Do you want to do that with me?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, of course I do. That sounds like a great idea." Catch is that the character may not necessarily role play too heavily, but it will still fulfill the needs and the desires of the other people. In this way, I think Watcher characters, being as adaptable as they are, pretty much come from a foundation that can be very strong. Whenever you see a Watcher character trying to build their own character, however, you find that they will not necessarily take too many creative steps. If you say, well, look, the group needs a fighter, they'll make a fighter. You know, it'll use a sword and a shield. It won't really be that inspired or creative, because at the end of the day, a Watcher is not there to create. They're there to observe creation. They're there to watch your creativity, you as a GM, you as a player. If you want to include the Watcher in that process, then you need to include them from the get-go. Maybe as a GM, take that moment to approach them and say, "Hey, listen, I've got this really great idea for a character. I think you would be a fantastic fit for it." This way, their narrative is driven by the story rather than having them be a part of the driven story narrative. What this basically is that you just put a steering wheel into the back of their character, and every now and then you go, "Okay, cool, we need to give you a bit more flavor," and drive the character a little bit. This could be something like sending them secret messages. Your character is on a mission. Your goal currently is to poison the pie that is going to be served to the king. Now that player will take that, will have a look, and because of their nature, because they're not really, vibrant and energetic, they will just do what they need to do. And they'll do it so softly and so subtly that they'll get away with it too. So yeah, I love character designing, especially when you can mix in those plot elements to the character building part. So those are always great. Love Watchers in those positions. All right, next up, teamwork. Now, I'm going to say this outrightly. I'm not going to say this as a sweeping statement for Watcher characters, but I'm going to say this in general. Do not expect Watcher characters to be team-based characters. They will struggle enough trying to decide what to do on their own. They will not come up with those creative strategies to team up and work with the group around them. But what they lack for in teamwork-based characters, they make up for from being teamwork-based players. Now, if you go up to a Watcher character and tell them, hey, listen, one of us needs to play a character who keeps a journal. Just keeps track of the NPC's names, the major plot hooks, who's got what items. Can you do that? Watcher characters love doing that because for them, it's currency. It is a reason, a tangible bit of evidence that they can use to not have to put themselves into an uncomfortable situation like trying to perform in front of friends. So they will latch onto those types of tasks. They will go, oh, I'll keep track of the loot. Hell, even between games, I will find out the prices of all the loot, calculate how much it costs to sell, and then distribute the loot evenly. I will be the group's treasurer. Fantastic. This level of teamwork is vital, and it's important that you recognize that if you've got to watch a character at your table, grant them the opportunity to take that role, to be able to feel as though they are still part of the team, even though they don't necessarily feel comfortable doing the same things that everyone else is. Remember, this game is all about finding your own comfort zone, and for a Watcher player, this could be it. Next up is, of course, playing with a Watcher. Now, I know I'd kind of mentioned it sort of there, but if you're playing with a Watcher character, don't feel obliged to force them to roleplay. Many people get under the misapprehension that Watcher players aren't having fun if they're not roleplaying. I know I do, and I'm going to share a story about this. Now, when I first began playing, very many years ago, I was playing with a group of performers, actors, entertainers, people who have experienced, being on stage and stuff like that. So we were all very confident people. We were all very energetic, and we loved the notion of being able to really bust out our chops to try and play this game. One of the players was not of this category. One of the players was, in fact, a friend of the game master who had come along to help us with the rules because, they'd played before. What this person wasn't expecting was, of course, the intensity of the rest of the players. Now, you guys know I'm very energetic. You've seen me in certain circles, and of course, you've seen my videos. I am no different. I am like this. I am just a ball of energy and excitement. The difference was at the time I had no off switch. I was constantly trying to bring this person in. I was like, oh, we're going to do this. Hey, I'm going to jump off a waterfall. Do you want to jump off with me? No, you sure you don't want to? Look, I'm going to make a grapple check. I grapple him and grab him and jump off with me. When I jump off, you got to go grab this guy so he doesn't fall to his death. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go. Ah! The problem was that this player did not like that at all. I thought in my head that I was engaging my fellow player in a role-playing scenario that they would then latch onto and love me for. The exact opposite happened. He resented me. He thought that I was very obnoxious. Not untrue. I'm still pretty obnoxious. He thought that basically I had, for the most part, just made him feel uncomfortable at the game. The end lesson that I learned at that point was that, because I didn't understand what I'd done wrong, because the GM told me this scenario after we'd finished the campaign, and I thought I was fine. I thought everything was fine because at the time I was very self-orientated. I was like about my fun, my enjoyment, my experience. That it was actually the first time I'd stopped to consider that someone else is having fun in a different way than I was. And he told me this, and I was actually quite upset at it. I didn't really want to upset this person, and I kind of wish that they had told me about this early on, so I would have stopped. But that's the nature of being a Watcher type character, is the Watcher players tend to be very quiet, very much enjoying the world in their own way. So the lesson that I learned was that instead of trying to force them to roleplay or push them into something, was to always just check. Just make sure that they are enjoying themselves and they're having fun. This doesn't have to be a constant, hey, you all right? No? Yeah, you having fun? Yeah, okay, cool. It could be something as simple as saying, hey, listen, my character is worried about one of the other characters. He wants to talk to someone. Do you mind if my character talks to your character about it for a bit? And if they say, oh, yeah, sure, gauge it from there, Sometimes they'll be like, oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, sure, come talk to me. And you can tell that that's a good lead. Sometimes they'd be going like, yeah. If they sound like they're hesitant, sure, dip into it, but don't go overboard. Just be like, okay, listen, I think that this character, if he finds out about his parents, he's going to lead us down a destructive path. We need to keep it a secret, okay? And that's it. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go into the big thing of, oh, my father, he killed my wife, and I have to go on this epic quest and blah, 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 blah. Don't drag them into that sort of thing. Because chances are they'll actually know more about the story than you do because they've been watching the whole time. So yeah, keeping notes, just observing people. That is the nature of the watcher. All right. Last but not least, the weaknesses of a watcher character. Now, the biggest weakness for them, I believe, is trying to coax creativity out of watcher archetypes. At the essence of role-playing, we find problem-solving to be one of the major challenges that we face. Whether that's the challenge of how to overcome a big monster, solving a puzzle, overcoming traps and pitfalls. Watcher players at least, I've never really gotten a strong sense of them being able to solve puzzles. They're the kind that are more inclined to watch the rest of the players do stuff, meaning that if the players get stuck and can't think of anything, watchers tend to be a little bit helpless. If you are a watcher player, or if you identify as a watcher player, I always recommend, obviously, first of all, taking notes. Taking notes is a fantastic idea because you will have people at your table that will forget stuff. But if you get the chance to, set yourself a goal. At least once per story arc, once per major arc or something, be single-handedly responsible for solving at least one puzzle. Now, this might not sound like much, but I think with watchers, the motivation is completely different to a regular player. A regular player wants to get to the end of the story. A watcher wants to experience the story. And because you're in the moment, you have no real desire to overcome it. So set yourself that as a goal. As a watcher, set yourself the goal. I wish to overcome this encounter. I want to overcome this scenario. I want to achieve this. Once you as a watcher begin to set goals for yourself, you then start to negate tons and tons and tons of those weaknesses that make watchers a little bit more of the, sideline characters. I mean, there's not to say that a watcher character couldn't end up being a major character in a story, or even being the leader of a group. It just takes a lot of time, a lot of motivation, and of course, a definitely strong logistical mind to be able to filter between grabbing all the bits of investigator information, putting it together, and then using it to your advantage. If you get to that level, you literally start living in the realm of Sherlock Holmes, and that is for me, that is one of the most perfect forms of the watcher archetype. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, always hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Go check us out on all of our other medias in the links below. Go say hi to us on Discord. We now have a very thriving RPG deep dive section where if you want to go into the very strong nuances of the game, we have an entire channel dedicated to that, of course run by our awesome fan Lance Pickett, who has actually been doing an incredible job. I know I haven't been responding too much to it, but that's because I look at it and I'm like, oh my god, there's so much stuff here. I'm learning so many things. So definitely check that out. I'll leave a link again below. And of course, if you want to support us, head on over to our Twitch page, twitch.tv/Deadaussiegamer. Go check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Deadaussiegamer. And you can really help support and make this whole thing continue growing, thriving, and surviving. Till next time, guys, as always, game hard or die trying. See yas!